Hey there. So I was kind of on fire to make a video earlier, and YouTube wasn't cooperating. So I don't even remember exactly, because these days just kind of come and go, in and out, like the little, you know, dots and blobs on the tile work when I was working with mushrooms. But what got me really activated was somebody on Facebook. I've kind of a friend of a friend. I posted about. Well, no, he posted about something like something happening among, to Palestinians, and a friend of his started spouting all this really vile racist stuff about Palestinians, and I responded in a reasonably measured way with some sources and um, some realities. He did not. He breezed straight past the sources and went straight back to the vile. And he got even worse. It was even worse, sort of. These kind of half truths, tenth truths. I saw this poll about how Palestinians, believe X, Y, Z, so they're like Nazis, and Nazis don't get human rights, and just as if there's not literally a genocide going on in Gaza right now, as if people. I don't need to tell you. I don't need to rehash the conflict in this particular video. Wrote a whole book. You can read it, but just this kind of like dead-eyed, like almost like how sharks have these kind of dead thug eyes. That's the vibe you get from these racists who are our society's respectable racists. They're allowed to say that. Ta-Nehisi Coates was giving an interview, and he was talking about how there's apartheid in the West Bank, and the host said, well, why is there apartheid? As if like, what did the Palestinians do to deserve apartheid? And you know I could just feel that burning all through my body. How dare you say that about these good people you've never met? You know nothing about. You know propaganda, that's it. And like I say, half truths, tenth truths. Yes, they have, in my progressive feminist view, not policies I would recommend for, in some cases, for treating women. I mean, you can say that about Orthodox Jews too. You can say that about Southern evangelical Christian Americans too. You can say that about a lot of people, and there's degrees of it for sure. I'm not a total relativist by any means, but do you think the women, Orthodox Jewish women, are going to be better off if they're starving, if they have no economic opportunities, if they're under military occupation, if their sons are kidnapped in the middle of the night without charge or trial? Anyway, sorry. Point is, all of these things are swimming through your head. All these realities that they are completely blind to, and completely blind to the fact that they are blind to. And you are helpless. You're helpless. You have to live in a world with them where they say what they say on live TV, and it's just a day's work to be totally racist against certain people who it's acceptable to be racist against. And you tell them, like, that's racist. They're like, it's intolerant of you to say that somebody who's just citing statistics is a racist. And they have the power, so they get to say that. And what can I do? Just burn. Or I'm having some Ora cacao, uplifting Uganda. Just my little plug. It's lovely stuff. It's a little bit of a balm for the soul when a balm is needed. But yeah, you can you can burn, you can clap back for all the good that's gonna do. Mm. Tanakani Ta-Nehisi Coates in this interview was absolutely brilliant, phenomenal. The way that he kept his cool. It's like, man, I want to be able to do that, you know? Um, and at the same time, like, he would have been justified throwing fists, man. That was some shit. That was some racist, nasty, power playing, smarmy, smug bullshit. Hurtful, harmful, and not remotely true. And yet they have the power, so he can say it. And if you throw fists, then that's proof that you're irrational. You know, he's the one who's rational. I've got my statistics and talking points, and I have my corporate job, and I have this $300 haircut, and whatever. And I saw an interview with him with Trevor Noah where he said, I didn't get too insulted because I knew it was coming, and because I'd done my homework, and because I um I have my moral compass. So whatever, let him do what he does. And my intuition is that that's kind of the best you can do is, meet them on their severely tilted playing fields, play by their severely tilted rules, and try to beat them at their own game, or try to meet them in their own game. But it makes me want to punch something. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say I don't have something in me that wants to punch something. Because if I lie, if I suppress it, repress it, ignore it, deny it, it's always going to be there. So what do I do? I've been just trying to feel it. And sort of the words that came from the feeling is, I don't know what's going on and I'm lonely. There was a sense when I was a kid that, I would say things maybe to my mom that were true from my perspective, and she would dismiss me and kind of sneer at me sometimes. What do you know about that? Um, and it made me second guess myself, even when it's like gaslighting myself, even when I knew my experience, or I knew what I'd seen, or I was just saying something innocent, that didn't need to be sneered at. It could just be like, oh, really? Okay, I'll talk about that. Um, and so it made me feel like stupid and doubtful, and at the same time indignant, but that indignance had nowhere to go. And at the same time lonely because there was no connection. There was no real connection. I would try to connect, it would be slapped down. Just a small example, like one time we were driving down the street, right down the road in Tulsa, and I saw a billboard that said, KVOO something something FM, right? And just a little kid, and I was proud of myself. I figured out it was a radio station. So I said, "Hey, mom, I hear KVOO is a really good radio station." And she looks back at me and she's like, "What do you know about radio stations? Like, why are you even saying that?" And I was too ashamed to say, well, and didn't even really know why I'd said that. I mean, it's just a way to, like, show off a little bit, build connection, start a conversation. And instead of like, "Oh, why do you say that?" It's like, "What do you know about radio stations?" And I just like, I mean, that's one of millions of examples. Um, and I just, what can a little kid do with that? Oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's a bad radio station, and maybe I'm a liar because I didn't know it was a good radio station. Maybe I don't know. Who knows? But another part that's like, this is wrong. It's wrong to treat a little kid like this, and I knew it was wrong, but there was nobody to back me up. I was all on my own. Always, almost always. And that just sort of like it just it gets embedded in you more deeply and deeply and deeply. You don't know what you're talking about. You're stupid. You you don't get a voice. Your voice doesn't matter. So I mean, no wonder I have empathy for Palestinians and oppressed people in general who have no power, who are told what they're allowed to feel, who are told their voice doesn't matter, who have no recourse, not within the power structure that runs everything. So as I was sitting there kind of feeling my feelings, my loneliness, another part comes in. It's like, why should I have to deal with this shit? And I want it to be over with. I just want to be happy. I want to be a normal kid. I want to be loved. I want to belong. And all I can do with that part is say, I know, I totally understand. I totally understand this wish. It's very valid. You're allowed to want that. The universe is not a tyrannical parent. I should say it's not fair to assume the universe is a tyrannical parent because that's my foundational experience. So I know, darling, I can't pretend I really know what's going on here. I can't pretend I know when it's going to end. I can't pretend to know what's on the other side of it. But you have a voice. You're allowed to be here. You're allowed to voice your concerns, your feelings. Um, but it is deeply unknown. Like one of Angela's recent videos, the known, like what the fuck is the known? The known is the things you think you've got pinned down, right? But you don't. So the unknown is really everything. What can you say about anything without reference to something else that eventually gets to the unknown? Every sensation in my body, much less the full collection of them, the stories that are told to make sense of them, it all ultimately and seemingly inescapably rests on absolute unknown. And You know, scientists like to joke about turtles all the way down, but it's turtles all the way down in physics too. You don't even get to turtles in physics because you don't even know what consciousness is. So trying to talk about, I mean, I guess, yeah, you can describe the content of consciousness in greater and greater detail, and that's worth something. It's interesting too. It's fascinating. But it's all built on consciousness, and we don't know what that is. Don't know where it comes from. We don't know anything outside of it. So I call scientists the cult of the observable. I called them that before I'd ever heard of non-duality. the religion of materialism. I sensed that about science even as an undergraduate, and boy, did professors get mad when I would get anywhere close to asking about that or talking about that. Fundamentalists everywhere. But if you're not a fundamentalist, you have to acknowledge the unknown. Acknowledge that when you get angry on Facebook, you're entering a great mystery. And there's sensations that come up through your core. And you just have to intuit what to do about them with some guidance from people who've been there before. Some guidance about shadow work. Just be with it. Act as if it's welcome to stay until the end of time. Which is tricky because there are parts of you that want to get rid of it. And you have to let them be there too. So, and it's supposedly effortless to let the masks fall away. But I'm not there yet. So, but it's more and more lately, I don't really have much of a choice. Even watching videos, like nothing makes the sensations go away. I'm kind of forced to meet them. And my tendency is to resist. And so I have to weirdly, ironically, allow the resistance. And there's resistance to that too. So it's a lot of it's layers and layers and layers. And I'm really fatigued a lot lately. I go to bed early, get up in a reasonable hour, sometimes sleep in, and I'm still fatigued all the time lately. By the end of the day, I'm just wiped out. And there's parts of me that say, like, maybe this is a huge waste of time and energy. I could be doing so many other things instead of being tired and confused and useless, sitting around feeling my feelings. For God knows how long, to God knows what end. It's kind of Like, also, like Angela says, you have to be a little bit crazy to do this, and all you have to go on is your own intuition and the words of people who've gone before, who resonate with your intuition, even if your intuition, is fuzzy and can only maybe see this far ahead, at best. It's very humbling. And you don't know where your intuition came from either. You just have these boiling, roiling, intense sensations that get stirred up in various ways. And yeah, these YouTube videos can really help somehow. It's a way of kind of unspooling things, the way that writing in journals used to be, but that doesn't work for me so well anymore. I sit down and write, and I feel like I'm writing with a stick in mud. It just doesn't go anywhere. Feels extremely clunky and just not useful anymore. So, YouTube to the rescue. And I still deal sometimes with that's the thing, like, how do you know the difference between impulse? Not impulse, what's the word? I guess conditioned response versus intuition. I feel like I have a conditioned response to flee. It still pops up quite a bit. Like, I don't want to be right here, right now, doing this, even though I literally could not possibly be doing anything other than this right here, right now, because I am right here, right now, doing this. I mean, there are decision points, obviously, where, there's sort of a moment of like, I don't know what I'm going to do next. I don't know how to decide. Obviously, there's plenty of points where it's like, oh, it's 2:20, got to get the kids. There's also points where it's like, kids won't be here. I don't need to get the kids for 3 hours. What should I do? How do I decide? How do I not squander this precious freedom that I have? How do I not feel crushed by the responsibility of it and by the fear that I'll get it wrong? I think I said, I'm kind of giving myself until the new year, basically. Angela's retreat is in December, and then there's 2 more weeks of school, and then there's Christmas holidays, and then the new year, where I'm just gonna notice these decision points and try to feel into what feels like the next thing to do without too much judgment or second guessing or recrimination. I have some invitations coming up talking about Palestine, which is I'm excited about. These are ones where people reached out to me. I didn't have to go chasing, somebody please listen to me. Um, and so I'm excited about that. Yeah, I actually feel good about that. It's nice. And I'm going to sponsor some kids for fun night at my kids' school. There's this big fun night fundraiser where I usually end up spending like $300, of which the school gets 100 of it. I don't know. It's this crazy thing where everyone's expected to spend so much money getting supplies and candy and gifts for baskets that people bid on. And instead of sort of spending $300 in so many hours and the school getting 100 of it or whatever it is, I'd rather just give the school $200, you know? But not my decision. And it is fun. The kids love it. But it is spendy, and um, sort of the minimum you can spend is $25 on a wristband and some tickets. And I know some parents are probably feeling a bit pinched and maybe also guilty for not contributing. Um, and so I'm trying to do as much as I can on this local scale. And I also offered to buy wristbands and some tickets for 5 kids if somebody can facilitate getting them to the kids. I feel good about that. I think that the ways that it's easy to give, we don't give ourselves credit for. We only give ourselves credit if it's hard to give. There's something kind of backwards about that. The ones where it just feels flowy and inevitable. So maybe we don't need to make so much effort as we think we do. Maybe we make more of a difference than we think we do. We can stop beating ourselves up so much for not doing more or for not. I think what we really beat ourselves up for is not being in more pain. Why should we be comfortable when so many people are in pain? There's something backwards about that. Giving joyfully or giving, like in Khalil Gibran's poem, like a tree gives off its scent. There's nothing wrong with that either. I mean, you don't have to self-flagellate to be kind and make a difference. Maybe. But yeah, I think I'm gonna write. I'm gonna work on my novel again after this, but the juices, the feelings, the energy isn't so stirred up now. And there's times when it can even feel almost like bliss a little bit. I don't know. Don't know what it is. Don't know what anything is. But here I go. Little amoeba stuck in some kind of matrix I don't understand. Doing my best. What else can we do? All right, love y'all.